but like I will say in the particular case of Queen Elizabeth, like what's the worst thing you can actually say that was like she did? That was like
Yeah.
her like own responsibility other than killing Lady D. I'm joking, or am I? I mean, imagine being like the new prime minister,
Oh,
and
yeah. Like,
l-
not only is she inheriting a horrible situation, this is happening now.
but like how long was she like in office before this
I
happened? Like a
think
day?
less than a week for sure. Maybe 3 days.
Sheesh. I want a new
Like,
season.
yeah.
I want a new season of The Crown.
Actually, they just said that they're pausing production in the new season out of
They're pausing
respect.
production.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure. Well, I don't know where they film, but I understand that like everything is pausing in the UK for like a while.
I mean, fair, but like, do you think they're gonna like postpone the new season? Like,
No, no, come on, money above all, honey.
especially
That's not.
now,
They're not
right?
gonna go that far. Yeah, no, they'll
Especially
still
now.
have the season,
I don't like
and like
Charles.
the no one likes Charles. So okay, are we gonna start or what?
I think we already started.
Okay, but I have to say hello and todo eso.
Do you
Okay,
wanna go for it?
yes,
Hello.
it was my turn.
Okay, go for it.
Hello.
Hello. No, no, you go, you go, you
So,
go.
hello, here we are again from the North, episode 3 of our new season. And today we are witnessing world history. It's a pretty big deal. Queen Elizabeth II has died today. Um, those who know me know that I have an affinity for Lilibet. It's not about royalty. I just like her. Like, I feel a lot of people felt this way. Don't you think, Eu? Like, it's not people had across the world felt like this was sort of like our grandmother. Like it's not about royalty. No one likes Charles, for example, but we had respect for Elizabeth.
I
How do
think
you feel about
I
it?
think most people do. Um, Certainly not a lot of people in Argentina, for example. But I was thinking all that because like I was like looking at statements from like world leaders, you know, sending their condolences to the royal family and you know expressing how sad they were and their empathy. And I don't think I've seen the world as united as I've seen them like before, as I've seen them today. Like you could see like a tweet from Joe Biden, from Justin Trudeau, from Macron, and then
Even the
suddenly
Mexican president who loves
AMLO.
to like remind the world about imperial colonial crown crimes from the British and Spanish crown, even AMLO, although he did put in like he said something like the queen of X amount of independent nations, like he made it a
Whoa.
little bit,
Whatever
but
that
he still,
whatever that
yeah.
means. But even like Maduro sent like a heartfelt message.
Oh, did he? I missed that.
Yeah, on his Twitter, which is funny because you know Maduro being Maduro, the you know anti-imperialist Stalin dude, Stalin looking dude, and he sent a very heartfelt message to the crown and to the family and to the people of the UK. Even Putin put out a message.
Oh my
Uh,
god, I missed that one too.
yeah, yeah, like you have Putin and Joe Biden, you know, giving beautiful, thoughtful messages to the people of the United Kingdom. So you know, like the crown transcends everything in the world, I think, and it's even if you don't care about the crown or the monarchy or Elizabeth, I feel that everyone should understand how big of a piece of culture, not just for like Western or British culture, but like contemporary human culture. Um,
Right. It's a cultural thing. Like I was just thinking, isn't it crazy how like we all just say the queen? Like there are other queens,
yeah,
but when
well,
you say the queen, everyone knows who you're talking about.
everyone knows you're talking about Lilibet. It's she's
Correct.
been around like for so long. Like
Since Churchill, he was her first prime minister.
yes, yes, I did see the first season of The Crown. It was
And
amazing.
also, well, today, I work in news, so I've been writing about it all day. And like, I was writing about her first visit to the U.S. when she was still a princess, meeting President Truman, and she met I think it was 13 presidents since Truman, except Lyndon Johnson for some reason. But how incredible!
It's more incredible is that she presided over the periods in Ottawa for more than half of Canada's all-time prime ministers. Like Canada has like 23 prime ministers in its history. She's been
Wow.
there for 12, 13 of them.
Well, let's remind our viewers that Edu lives in one of the Commonwealth countries.
Yeah,
So I died at your tweet because he was like, oh my God, when I become a citizen, I'm going to have to pledge to Charles.
that sucks. That sucks ass. Like I was like ready to pledge my loyalty to the Queen Elizabeth the second. I mean, Queen Elizabeth is like as a person, she's like she evokes warmth and kindness and like royalty in its purest sense. But
And she
Charles
has
Charles is
remained
a Charles is a son of a
apolitical.
bitch. Like I don't
Well,
like
I
him.
mean, he's so not just starting just that he's not charismatic, and then of course the
No.
history of what we have seen his life be. I really wonder how the people are gonna accept him. But to go back to Lilibet, Elu, I want to explain why I have such an affinity for her. It has nothing to do with royalty, which I do not support. I like, well, even though there is a democracy, you can have monarchy and democracy, but I support a more republican way to be a country. However, I don't blame Lilibet for the royal system. I mean, she was just born into it. It's not like a dictator that comes in and like takes over. She was born into it. She did her duty the best way she could at a time when women were not in positions of power. And she proved to the world that you could be a woman and be a somber, serious leader and, be a strong, what do you call, a symbol of a country in times of crises and in times that are in crisis. I think that did something in the 20th century for women everywhere. And I think, when at a time, especially still, people will say that women are too emotional to rule, all the sexist things that we have heard always. And here you had the longest reigning monarch in the history of the UK, and probably the most beloved and respected, and it was a woman.
And she also presided a very important part of the crown's history, which is the pretty much for all intents and purposes, except in paper, the dissolution of the British Empire. Uh, when Queen Elizabeth became queen, Canada still had to like pass their laws and foreign policy through the United Kingdom. Australia, I think, was the same situation. New Zealand, and now today they're independent countries. Like, yeah, Canada it's technically part of the crown, and Elizabeth was our queen, and Charles is now our king, and they're on their currency. But that doesn't mean that Canada it has any ties to the crown other than nominal, honorary type of like.
It was
It
symbolic.
was a symbolic type of connection that we had with the crown, but yeah, she did presided like over the dismantling of the British Empire and the UK kind of becoming just one of the other nations in Europe.
She saw England join the European Union and leave
She
the
saw it
European Union.
join and leave the European Union. She, I think she's been alive for every single football World Cup.
Oh
This
my
is gonna be the
God.
first time that we're gonna have a World Cup without Queen Elizabeth or Elizabeth in this world. So yeah, uh,
I also think something you said, Elu, it's like I don't know if people realize this. Like you just mentioned, maybe Argentinians don't like her. I assume you're talking about the Falklands
Yes.
War. However, I'm gonna go back to what you said on Twitter earlier. That had nothing to do with Lilibet. If you
No.
want, blame
Thatcher.
Thatcher for that one. You know?
Okay, but like going back to something that you said, you were talking about why you like her. She's a symbol of such a strong woman in a position of power. So, who do you admire more, Thatcher or Queen Elizabeth?
This is gonna get me in trouble either way. First of all, I think Thatcher is an admirable woman, even if she was a conservative. Sorry, cancel me. Like,
No girl boss,
yeah.
no girl boss, nothing for Thatcher.
I think Thatcher is admirable. And did also something for women as the first female prime minister of the United Kingdom. Um, that's actually a hard question. I find them both to be admirable women, even if I don't agree with Thatcher's politics. But come on, I have an affinity for
I
Lilibet. I'm gonna
know.
go with Lilibet always. But the pesados of always. There's no word in English for pesado. Like it's like pedantic is a little bit, but it's not really what I want to say. They're out there, the people that support Fidel Castro,
Oh yeah.
but they're out there saying, how dare anyone pay respect to the queen, the leader of a genocidal empire? And they just have to put their two words out there today while this woman was on her deathbed to tell the world that they are anti-imperialist while they support, Putin. What do you think about that, Edu? Like, isn't that fascinating? Like, they really think they're going to be anti-establishment by saying a very popular opinion, which is that you're against monarchy, but yet you support dictators. I guess they weren't born into it. They fought for it, I guess.
I was thinking of that actually. Well, first, we have to say it. This is people that are stuck in a different world, different reality. Like it's like the same. They're tankies. Like their whole the reason why they hate the monarchy so much is the same reason why they hate the U.S. so much, and they love Russia so much, even though like Russia cannot be described in any way as communist today. You're gonna see the most hardcore old school Marxist being like pro Russia, anti
Right.
UK, anti US, fuck the Queen. But they're just stuck in a different world, the Cold War era universe that does not longer exist. But even beyond that, I was also thinking that it's just being edgy. It's just a way of being edgy. It's kind of like the same reason why a lot of like stupid kids would idolize, fascism and Hitler and people like that. It's because you're not supposed to say it.
Totally.
But then you say it, and then it's like, oh my god,
But what's
I'm
funny
like,
to me,
I'm
Elu, is that
punching buttons.
maybe that was right. I'm pushing buttons.
Yeah,
Look at me. I'm so cool. I'm punk rock.
but
However,
PC
maybe that was the
because I'm
case
lefty,
50.
like, right?
Right, right, right. But maybe that was the case 50 years ago. But now it's not a punk rock position. It's a mainstream position. No one is out here really. Like, I mean, there are people I'm sure that are like wanting to bring like actual monarchy back, but it's not a shocking position to be against monarchy. Most people are against it and for democracies and republics.
Yeah.
So it's so funny to me that it's so like an outdated. They need to like catch up. I think it would be more anti-establishment to say that you're pro monarchy. That's the least popular position.
Now, there are some people that would come with a more elaborated argument as to explain their hatred towards the monarchy and their disdain for the queen and all that, which is, yeah, even though they don't have any real power, they still live like a luxury life. They're still head of state of like 4 or 5 different major nations in the world. And they live out of subsidy, which means that they live out of taxpayers' money.
Right. But that
But
used to be my argument. But
but
apparently I learned, is that what you're going to say?
I'm gonna say one thing, and I think you're gonna say something else. But I'm gonna let you say your thing first because mine will be more complimentary to that. So go ahead. Let me see if I got it. Go ahead.
Well, that is and was the reason that I was super against monarchy, and again I still am. I would rather not, but I in the specific case of the British royal family, apparently they bring in more money through tourism and all those things that they spent.
Yeah,
So I
that
guess that's
that's
not an
one of the
argument.
things. Some studies contradict themselves. Some studies say that they help. Some others say that they help, but not as much as to actually make a surplus, as to how expensive they are. Um, but I think the most important part of the British monarchy is that it's a cultural symbol, and as a nation, I mean, I'm not from the UK, but she's still my queen here in Canada, technically. Um, I feel that countries should invest in their culture, because at the end of the day, it's something that brings some cohesion to broken societies, especially the societies that we live in today. It brings tourism, it brings character to your nation and to your culture. So those are things that should be invested with. Same reason why countries, especially for example in America, we invest so much money in churches or carnivals or other things like that. Not because they're necessary, but just because they're part of our culture. We need to like put some money into it to keep it
I
going, to keep it
mean,
alive.
and no offense, but that's like the biggest, like, most attractive cultural thing that the Brits have going on.
Yeah,
Like,
sure is not the food, I can tell you that.
right.
Maybe the music's great.
I mean, yeah, they had the Beatles. That's a pretty big one, but it is like the Beatles and the Queen. That's like what you think of when you think of Britain.
Like, think about the Sex Pistols. The whole reason the Sex Pistols were like so like great and remembered, even though they lived for like 2 years, is because they were pioneering punk by attacking the Queen directly. Like, they played a gig in the, what's the river? Thames? Thames?
Yeah, the same.
The
I don't know
Thames?
how to
I don't
say
know how to say it. I'm sorry. El
it.
Tames.
Hispanic
The
problems.
little
English is a second language problem.
the little dirty river that runs through London. And they were playing a gig there, singing their song "God Save the Queen," um, in which song they call her a fascist. It's a lovely song. I love that song. And they went like in the middle of the gig, the police got them and threw them in jail, and that like boosts their popularity and so on and so forth. But like,
Wait, I was gonna ask about that because I don't know. Were they allowed to sing their
no,
songs? Like, calling?
no,
No, it was like,
no. Like, they were
see, I don't like
allowed.
that.
They were allowed, but they were not allowed to like do that in front of Parliament in a boat without a permit. like,
Oh, okay, but they were allowed to release their music
yeah,
and become famous. Okay, so see, that's the difference between Queen Elizabeth and Maduro
yeah.
or Fidel
or
Castro.
like
There you
or
go.
like any other like actual monarchies that still exist today, like the Saudis, or so not going
Right.
too far, like North Korea, even though technically it is not a monarchy. Come on,
But
like,
it basically is just like what's going on in Cuba.
there
Like, what's the
exactly,
difference?
exactly.
What's the
But
difference?
like even in Cuba, like it's still a little bit more cynical. It's like, yeah, president, whatever. Like in Juche, in North Korea, that shit is like they are gods.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. They
the
say they don't
the
poop and
whole,
stuff.
yeah, it's an absolutist monarchy, framed as a communist dystopia or whatever it is. But yeah, I feel again like people shouldn't really. I kind of find it silly, and I don't really get into that debate anymore. There are a lot of things that I don't debate anymore. Like my new philosophy in life is like when someone says something stupid, it is not my place to educate them. It is my place to judge them, make fun of them, maybe like screenshot it and send a meme to head and say, "Oh, look at how stupid this person is." But it is not my place to like try to change their
Well, but
mind.
you save it for the podcast. I like you also said that on Twitter. Like, I'm not gonna be here like opining so much. Like,
No,
watch the
no,
podcast if
watch
you
the
want to hear my
podcast. Like,
opinion.
listen, guys, if you are one of the few fortunate people that follow me on my Twitter account, you know that I only shit post there. That is because I'm saving all my good stuff for here, all my opinions, which are not necessarily the good stuff, but yeah, I'm trying to make it as good as I can. Uh,
But Edo, I think there's a wider conversation here. Like, I think we see this all the time when leaders, like usually 20th century leaders die, and there's always this battle online, like between the people who are honoring them, like saying nice things about them, and then the people who are like, how dare you celebrate a genocide denier. And I do think it depends on the case. Like when Chavez died, I was that person out there. Like, how dare you celebrate this horrible person and dictator? It doesn't matter if he just died. Like, no.
I mean,
But
it's
I feel different, like
mhm.
when it's leaders, like for example, like when Kissinger died. I mean, I actually don't really care much for Kissinger, so that's a bad example. But people, let's say, like, people have this debate over the memories of characters like Churchill
Yeah.
because they were racist and they did bad things, but they also did good things. So in those cases, I think I'm more leaning towards it's not like today, like on the day of their death, I wouldn't be like highlighting the bad things. With someone like Churchill, someone like Chavez, I would be like, yeah, no one should celebrate this guy. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It
Is
does
it
it does make sense, but like I will say in the particular case of Queen Elizabeth, like what's the worst thing you can actually say that was like she did that was like
yeah.
her like own responsibility other than killing Lady D? I'm joking, or am
I don't think
I?
I want to put it out there because then people are
Or
gonna say like,
am
"Oh
I?
yeah, she." People believe that. By the way, this is like a very strong
Oh, you
conspiracy
don't?
theory. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. No.
um well, obviously it's I will say I'm 70-30. 70 that it didn't happen, 30 that it might have happened. I digress. Like my point is like even Churchill, and I'm a person that understands the historical significance of Churchill, and I will say I have more positive things to say about the guy than negative things, taking obviously into consideration the context in which he did those things. But even Churchill did things that are like you cannot defend. Like he, in order to supply Britain with food and resources, he pretty much starved like a big portion of India. The Bengal famine, like look it up. But the Queen didn't do stuff like that. Like the Queen was just a presence with no political relevance other than like diplomatic positive kind of like figure that she was. Like she would go into like countries that where, for example, like her role in her own country. I'm just speaking of The Crown because I just love that show so much. But there were like when that happened, like the disaster happened at the mine. Um,
Oh yeah.
that like a whole village got destroyed by a landslide. She was there. You know, she was like the face of like the government at that time.
What about Edu? She was there as a child during World War II when her dad was
She
king and
was
they
a
didn't leave
mechanic.
London.
She was a mechanic during World War II. That's pretty cool. A teenager, soon to be queen, fixing like cars for the military.
I read somewhere that she was the last World War II veteran world leader. It's a big deal.
That is a big deal, and that's like I guess that's my take. Like for to say bad things about Queen Elizabeth is to like not really understand the real relevance that she had as a political figure, which was not. She was more of a diplomat rather than an actual world leader,
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
cultural symbol.
I've seen horrible takes online. I wish I had my phone so I could read this tweet, which has been like the most famous horrible one. It was, I think, I forgot who it
Yeah,
was. Maybe it was like a, you saw it? Was it, what, who is she?
yeah. I don't know, but she's like an activist. I'm gonna try to put it on
Right.
screen if I find it in post
It
production.
said something like, "Oh, I hear that the leader of a white supremacist, genocidal, imperialistic organization is dying today. I hope she dies in excruciating pain." Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, very
The
close to that. Very close to that actually. Um,
um the tweet got removed for like violating Twitter policies. How much you want to bet that that woman supports Fidel Castro?
yeah, she
I
like
would bet on it. I
she
would bet on it.
her profile on Twitter like looked entirely like a person who would like. It's that like you enter a profile that has like, oh,
There are the signs. What do they
LGBT,
have? Does she have
but
their
like
rose or
no, she has like the pride flag and like I'm feminist and all that stuff.
Palestinian flag? That's another.
No, no
Sadly, that's
Palestinian
another
flag.
sign.
But like you know how you can tell when someone is like genuinely liberal when they have like the LGBTQ flags, but you can see their tweets and they're usually not that acid. They're usually tweeting about good stuff in a positive tone. This girl, like, yes, she had like the LGBTQ and like feminists and all that, but every single tweet was like poison. That negative tone that some people used to like tweet. It's just
Right.
like being negative about everything that happens and like with a very strong language. That's how you can differentiate, I would say, like your average liberal normal person that from your like tanky activist
Mhm.
like radical bad person. That and they might have like the hammer and the sickle in their profile. That's like a
Oh
very quick
yeah.
way to tell when someone's a
I
bad
mean,
person.
some of them are very honest. They'll be like, "I love Stalin, Stalinist, Leninist." Like they no fucks given.
I saw a tweet of a girl. I tweeted it. She was like, "Yes, you can criticize Stalin for the bad things that he did, but at the end of the day, he was the leader of the most powerful Soviet, like socialist state, and he won the war." And someone asked her, I guess one of her followers, like, "Yeah, so like, what kind of bad things are you willing to like admit that he did?" And she was like, "Well, he did commit a little bit of genocide."
Tiny.
A tiny inky like little speck of genocide. But you know what? There were a lot of reactionaries, so uh,
But Elu, this is relevant to what we just said because it's she basically was making an argument like the one I just made about Churchill, but you gotta take it case by case. It is like kind of like a math situation that you gotta do. Like, did they do more good than bad? Basically,
pretty much, especially the as you go back and back in time, the more you go back in time, the more you're gonna have to do those calculations. Like
right?
going back to Churchill, like I was saying, look up the Bengal famine. It's terrible, but the guy won the war. He stopped Hitler alongside obviously the efforts of the other allies. Same thing
Mhm.
with who was the president by the end of the world? Was it the U.S. president Roosevelt?
No, by the end. Wait, by the end of the world. Coño, I don't know.
I think it
Was
was
it
Roosevelt, and like he died just before the end of the world. But that's also like the thing you gotta keep like in balance. Talking back to like World War II, like the war ended when the atomic bombs were dropped. And like at a first glance that might seem unforgivable, right?
right?
Like
Right.
Jesus,
That's a
like
good example. He dropped the atomic
two
bomb.
of them and like
Right.
evaporated like hundreds of thousands of people, and like it's the only time that those bombs have ever been used because we know what's gonna happen if everyone starts using them. um but he did it to end the war. Like the next stage of World War II, if that didn't happen, because the Japanese were not going to surrender, is
We go
that
back to the trolley problem.
we go
And
back to the trolley problem. Exactly. It's like you got to take into account like how many lives are we saving by doing one thing or the other. Obviously that doesn't for it's not like that completely negates the bad things that have happened,
but
but
we don't have to negate it, and that's what we should do,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
what you just said, I think it's great what you said about Churchill. Like he did this bad things, I'm acknowledging he did them. I'm telling you to look up the horrible thing he did.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, he saved Europe and maybe the world, so
I'm not gonna
I,
get a tattoo of Churchill, but like it
right.
was a pretty cool dude, and he did end the war. Who's like my most like controversial like historical figure that I admire, even though I shouldn't by any metric? Genghis Khan. So okay, let's get it out of the way. Genghis Khan probably was a person to kill the most amount of people ever in terms of
The most,
percentage,
probably
literally in terms
number
of percentage
one.
of human population. Yes, he had so many concubines, and I can bet you that most of them have not consensual relations with the guy, and a third of the world population descends from the guy because of that. But holy shit, did he conquer? He conquered like almost all of the world in a single generation. Like the biggest continuous empire to this day. And we're talking about a guy that was born in a nomad tribe in the prairies of Mongolia. Like, how the heck did that happen? That's amazing. I admire how he did it. Sorry, I admired what he did, not how he did it. But I feel that, again, that's just another example as to, like, you cannot really judge historical figures with the standards of today.
And it's such a like a timely topic, El, because we could even like have that same debate with, recently shamed characters like, let's say Michael Jackson or Woody Allen. Like,
Well, but
you
Woody Allen
know?
was fucked up, though.
Okay, we're not gonna get Edu is like like he does not believe the Michael Jackson victims or what. Either way, let's
Did
say
you
Michael
really have to
Jackson did
throw
do
me under
that.
the bus like that?
We can edit out if you want.
No,
But
no, no, no.
I'll
I'm
say
gonna
something
say it. I'm
even
gonna say it.
worse.
I think Michael Jackson was innocent.
Okay, but there you go. Then that's better than what I'm about to say.
Which is
I think I don't know for sure, but I lean towards he wasn't innocent, and I still will listen to his music, and I think we still should listen to his music.
well, I think that's a personal decision. I love Michael Jackson.
You cannot wipe it out. Like it's funny when that documentary came out, they were saying, "Yeah, we're not gonna play Michael Jackson. He's canceled." That lasted like 2 days.
You cannot stop
You
playing
cannot.
Michael Jackson. Like,
But
even
the
if he was
modern
like
music,
even if he was like a serial killer, even if he
it's just
became
the
like
impact is too big.
the
It just can't
impact
be
of the
wiped
guy is too
out. It
big. You
can't.
cannot
You can
stop playing
try.
Billie Jean. Like it.
Or the music that comes from that, which is
Absolutely.
most of the music we hear today, has roots in what Michael Jackson did. You think Da Vinci didn't like to mess with little boys?
Da Vinci. Even someone that I hate and I personally boycott, and I haven't listened to him in years, who's like Roger Waters, like the biggest piece of shit in the industry that I can think of in terms of not things that he did. He seems like a decent human being in his own personal life, but he's like an avid tanky like defender of the worst regimes around the world. Defends Maduro, Bashar al-Assad. Like this guy is like Putin. Like this guy is the fucking worst. But am I gonna say do not listen to Pink Floyd? No.
Well, you have an even better example because Rage Against the Machine, like the singer or whatever, it's like #1 Maduro supporter, and this dude gave him money to go see him perform.
I just
so.
fucking love Rage Against the Machine. Now, I don't know like how big of a heart on Sack de la Rocha has for Maduro. I know that they're full on communist, all of them, or most of them. But here's the thing about communists. They make the best music.
Sadly, yeah, that's true.
It's like banger after banger, and like you can be, the most capitalist pro like Bitcoin bro type of guy, but you listen to, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, and like you get that blood boiling, and that's like the thing that makes it so many young people, especially in their like 20s and like early 20s, late teens, a lot of people go to like the left
the
rabbit
aesthetics
hole.
are better. Like we've talked about
Yeah.
this. Che Guevara was handsome. Yes, the beard looked great on him. He looks great on a shirt. Like sadly, the aesthetics are more attractive.
The aesthetics, the music, the message, and then you grow up and it's like, wait, this doesn't work. And then, by your 30s, your 40s, you're like a liberal. And then when you're like 50, 60-year-old, you're like a libertarian. Or you just don't want to be taxed. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. But Edu, if we're gonna talk about royalty, I must take the opportunity to discuss Meghan Markle.
Okay. I don't know much about her. I think she's Canadian.
No, but she worked in Canada because they film a lot of shows there. So that's I think she like lived in Toronto. Is it where they shoot the shows?
Toronto
Unclear.
fam.
So there you go. But Why did I like Lilibet? Because even though she was born into, this life, living in a palace, whatever, she didn't try to have her cake and eat it too. Never gave an interview. Never, like, try to be a celebrity. Because they have a deal that she respected, which is, yes, the taxpayers pay for your life and you live in this castle, but you gotta behave a certain way and you gotta show pictures of your kids and you gotta play the game, which she did. Sadly, it's an exchange. It's you get to live in the castle and be queen, and then basically the public owned her life. You have a kid, shows a picture at this time, got, like, tell us the name. You know what I mean? That's the deal.
Do you know who was
But
horrible
Meghan
though?
Markle, she wanted to be a celebrity and be a princess. And that's not how it works.
Oh, so you're anti Megan?
1,000%.
Are you anti Lady D?
No, because honestly, I wasn't alive when that was going on. Maybe she would have annoyed me too. All I know now is the amazing outfits and the looks, so I love her, like I wasn't there as like this was happening. But I might have had a similar no, because the royal family like fucked over Lady Di. Like that's different. She had, like a real vendetta, and like she ended up speaking to the press, but Charles did it first, so it's not the same.
And now Camilla's the queen.
And now Camille, I mean, the real hot take here, but it's the truth, the real love story there is Charles and Camilla, even though I can't stand them. But they were always in love, and like that's who Charles always wanted. So like that's really the fairy tale. Sadly, she's not as pretty as Diana, but she was the one he always liked.
Now,
anyway,
tell me more about Meghan. Like, why did you?
I have a lot to say about Meghan. I'm sorry. Like, she annoys me so much. And then she says, "Leave us alone. We just want privacy." Then why are you doing Spotify? Why are you doing New York Magazine? Why do you keep giving interviews and revisiting what the crown did to you?
She's getting the bag.
Of course she's getting the bag. She got like millions and millions of dollars to do like 12 episodes on Spotify that have taken like 3 years. So
good for her.
I like duty and responsibility and honor. Those are always things that I've been attracted to. I've always been, the dutiful daughter. That's just like what I like. And so I like William more than Harry. I think the hard thing is to stay in that fishbowl and have the people like own your life and having to like show the kids. And also Meghan Markle is a liar, demonstrated. That's another bit that I'm not going to get into fact checking here, but like she gave this interview saying that this camera, I'm sorry guys, I'm so bad with the tech. Ew, you're going to kill me.
What happened?
The camera has been like falling, like it's just, but okay, here we go. It's back up. Oh, it's falling again. Anyway, Meghan Markle lied saying that, if I wasn't in California and if I was in London, I couldn't even bring my kids to school because there would be press everywhere and it would be a mess. That's a lie. There are actually very strict rules in the UK, and like all those, if you ever see Prince and William taking their kids to school, is very like scheduled. It's not all the time, which they take them to school all the time and it's not photographed. Another thing, she acts like my kids were, discriminated against horribly. Do you know that there is an HBO show called The Prince, which is hilarious? And it's about little Prince George being a flamboyant gay little boy.
Who's Prince George?
And like Prince George is Prince William's son.
Oh, so the third in line?
No? Right. So now that Charles is king. No, he's the second in line. Yeah. There's a whole HBO show mocking 6-7-year-olds. It's hilarious. So that's the deal that they have accepted and carried with duty. Literal shows making fun of them. They don't complain. But Meghan Markle is out here every freaking week complaining about how she was treated. And it rubs me the wrong way. And I think most people now, it rubs them. Oh, she compared herself to Mandela in the New York Magazine interview. She said that a South African had told her that when she got married to the prince, South Africa felt like they felt when Mandela left prison.
That's too much. You know, someone's a piece of shit when they are the ones making the comparisons to themselves.
Right.
I don't particularly care about Meghan. I didn't know you had such strong feelings against her.
Oh my god! But I feel like I finally said it.
Um, I will say though that the press around the crown, and I've seen it here firsthand because Canada's relation to the crown and the UK overall, it's pretty weird. Because it's everywhere in paper, but from a cultural aspect, you only really see it in like very old white people type of like sector of the population, I will say. But they love the queen and they love the monarchy, and you will see like at the drugstores, like all the magazines will be like the latest gossip surrounding the crown, and that always has like seemed weird to me how like people get obsessed with whatever's happening to the royal family. And I guess we've also seen that kind of happening with not necessarily royalty anymore, but we've seen this happening with the Kardashians now. Like there's
Well, I was gonna say, and I feel like the royals were like the original reality stars, you know?
yeah, and it was not like a wealth like they didn't get into like a reality show. They just their whole life was so public and so important for everyone else that the press just ate it and like fed that to the public, and the public loved it. But what I'm trying to get at is that even though there's like a horrible culture, I feel like at least from the press and the crown and all that consumerism about their personal lives, it's not as bad as what you see in Spain, for example, with the pink press. That shit's terrible. Like I don't know how Spain still has like the monarchy in Spain is in a whole different situation than the one in the
Yeah,
UK.
you know, and I always it's interesting that like, and I don't know if this is only in the English speaking world that I mostly move in, but no one ever talks about the Spanish royals, and I feel like that queen is an interesting figure. She's pretty, she dresses well, she used to be a journalist, it's a good story, but like the English speaking press like never covers the Spanish
Oh
royals. I find
no.
that interesting.
No, they don't. And like outside of Spain, really no one gives a shit. Like even in Latin America, which you would think, oh, they speak Spanish, they might care. No, they don't give a shit. And
They care more about Lilibet.
they care
Isn't that
more.
funny?
They care more about Lilibet. Like that's how big of a figure she was for the world. And but in Spain, at least to the people that I've talked to from Spain, like I've talked to people in the UK, and like the most common feeling is that they just don't care about Lilibet. You rarely see
Right.
someone hating her. You often see someone loving her a lot, but most people just don't care. In Spain, they all hate her. Like they
Yeah.
hate that, not Queen Elizabeth, like the monarchy in Spain. They hate their Spanish
Yeah.
monarchy.
You know,
It's
I've spent a lot
interesting.
of time in the UK because I work for British press, and I actually have found that the people did have love for the Queen again, specifically, not the system, but they had love for the Queen. But in Spain, it's not like that at all. And I wonder, Edu, if it's because of how it came to be. Who put that royal family there, the previous dictator?
Franco,
So
yeah.
it's, yeah, so it's,
Like yeah,
yeah, I feel.
there's like in Spain, it feels like loving the royal family. It's linked to like being a far right, like a
And
monarchist.
that king that Franco plays there also had horrible like corruption scandals and
Oh yeah.
spending like, so you again that comparison. Look at Queen Elizabeth and how she lived her life with no scandals because the scandals in her family were
Oh
not something
my
she did, you
god,
know?
her uncle was a Nazi, literally.
Yes,
Like
but I'm saying it's not something she did.
no, no,
It's
no, no,
like the
no, no, no.
family.
Obviously, like I'm just like to your point. Like her family comes from a family of like scandals, like before her, like especially her
And
uncle,
after her,
and
Charles
after
has had
her,
scandals. Harry has had scandals. I mean,
her
they
sister.
Prince
What's her name?
Andrew. How, do you know what's going on with Prince Andrew, right? Of
He's
course.
being is he being investigated for sexual trafficking and stuff like
He
that?
was BFFs with Epstein.
Oh
And there is a
boy.
girl who has accused him of having sex with her when she was 17, I think.
Oh boy.
So I think that's actually, and that was the queen's favorite son too. I mean, yeah, the poor queen had a lot to deal with over the last years. But yes, there's been plenty of scandals around in her relatives, but she never had a personal scandal in 7 years of reign. Like, that's insane. Compared to the Spanish king that basically had to renounce and shame. So,
She
yeah, there are differences in how people and royals and leaders behave.
she did an amazing job at just being queen. queen of a constitutional monarchy. And it's also the thing about the UK is that it's historically it's one of the first examples of having that a constitutional monarchy, a monarchy that's not an absolute monarch. Like um, even I think it was in the 12th century, the UK had the Magna Carta, which like decreased the power of the crown, and the crown had to consult with their lords, and that eventually evolved into the figure of the parliament. And then they
They
kept
eradicated the monarchy for a while, right? And
at
they brought
one
them back. I
point,
understand.
yeah, at
Yeah.
one point they eradicated the monarchy, and when they brought it back, they were like, okay, you're back, but the actual power resides on the
Mm-hmm.
prime minister, not on the crown. And it's been like that. Like people don't realize, like people think that, oh, that happened in the last 100 years, in the last 150. Like this happened like 300 years ago. Like by the early 19th century, the crown itself didn't have much power. Like the power was,
And it's why they survived Elu till
yeah.
today, because the other royal families in Europe that didn't do that, like the Tsar, who
Look
was
at the Tsar.
cousins with Queen
Exactly.
Elizabeth,
Exactly.
didn't have the same fate. But Edu, I think now we should talk about King Charles because I have something that's relevant to us. I also read today apparently that even though Queen Elizabeth met like every important leader of the 20th and 21st century so far, she never met Fidel Castro. Like she made a point apparently. Always apolitical. It's not like she gave out a statement denouncing him as a dictator. But she simply didn't meet with him. But Prince Charles, do you remember, and Camilla went to Cuba recently and had a good old time with the Castros and the puppet president. So we're gonna see a different type of British royalty, I think.
I don't know. Queen Elizabeth met with Chavez, so
She met with Chavez when he was not. I mean, I considered him probably already a dictator. I don't know when
he
the year
tried
was,
to hug
but
her.
oh my god, can you please put a picture here of the moment?
Okay, I will do this in
Because
post production. Look at the picture of Chavez trying to hug Queen Elizabeth. Look at her face. Look at her disgust in her face.
she was disgusted. And you know what the difference is? Because some people would say, well, the queen would have reacted that way to anyone. It's not true because there was a scandal because Michelle Obama hugged the queen, but the queen was hugging her back. And that's what Michelle Obama says in her book. She's like, the queen like put her hand around my waist. So I responded and did the same thing. So I'm going to tell myself that Lilibet intentionally snubbed both Fidel Castro and Chavez. And I did not like Charles having a blast in Cuba. So my love for the crown ends today.
It ends today. You're no longer a monarchist.
I was never a monarchist. Again, I just love Lilibet and now it's over. But I like William. So maybe when William is back, I'll be a fan again.
I mean that really. I guess that's like a good last topic to kind of close the episode. And this is just speculation at this point. But it's something that a lot of people have said, and I think it's on the minds of everyone, uh, at least everyone following this news, in and outside of the UK, which is this it? Was Queen Elizabeth the last monarch of the UK? Because, like you said, although you could argue that most people probably are not in favor of having a monarchy, especially in the UK, the whole reason put up with it, the whole reason everyone put up with it is because they love Queen Elizabeth. She was a great symbol for their people. From everyone like from the left to the right, like labor unions, the church, like the most conservative, the most like woke institutions and people, they all love the Queen, but they don't love necessarily the institution of the monarchy. So, is this it? Is this the end of British monarchy? I don't think so. Even though everyone's talking about it, and that seems to be like a topic of conversation, I don't see it ending soon. However, I do see it being weakened very fast over the following year, especially if Charles wants to keep it as long as his mom did. Or, well, I
And
guess
he
until that
doesn't.
age.
Like, he's going to be a very different king in many ways. Like, Charles, for example, has been very political in his life. a big success that Elizabeth had was that she never expressed political positions. This is another problem that Meghan Markle had. When you're a princess, sorry, you're not allowed to be out here saying your woke stuff. Like, it's not how it works. That's not what the people want to hear from you. Either way, they don't want to hear politics from you. Charles is not like Elizabeth. He's super political. So that's another thing we may see. But I agree, Edu. I don't think, like, we're going to see, like, the British people rebelling. However, what I think could happen, is in countries like Canada, like, they'll have to change their money too. The Queen is in their money.
Yeah.
Like, are they gonna go through the process of putting Charles in their money?
I don't
feel
want
like
to see King Charles on my bill.
you could, right? So they could easily be like, "Well, we gotta change our bills anyway. Like, it's kind of silly to put the king. Let's just not." Like, I see that happening.
It would be. I was looking at, like, someone did like an analysis on Twitter on this, and I found it very interesting. Of all the countries in the Commonwealth, the hardest one to have like the figure of the queen of the monarchy, or not the queen, the monarchy being removed as head of state would be Canada, because it requires like a brand new constitutional process, and there's not really any interest on doing that. And
That's a good point. These things are in the Constitution.
for the most part, Canada either doesn't really care about the crown, or is like slightly in favor of it, like from a nostalgic like perspective, or because that sense that, oh, we're still part of the empire. You know what I mean? Maybe in French Canada it's a different story. No, I know for a fact in French Canada it's a different story. But for the most part, people in Canada don't care enough to actually make that happen. So I don't see, and there hasn't been a push for it really in the Commonwealth countries. Now, a lot of nations that had the Queen and the Crown being their heads of state, like in the Caribbean, for example, a lot of them have already started the process of separating themselves from the Crown. A lot of them, there was a country recently that actually completely cut ties with them. I think it was,
I forgot which, but I just remember.
I'll put it here in post-production. But that, I guess it depends really on the country. I don't see it happening in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, maybe in some other territories, but again, I don't see it really happening. Now, is this going to be the same situation 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Like you said, we don't know what position Charles is going to take as king. We don't know if he's going to be like his mom. That, like, one of the big reasons why his mom was so beloved is because she was not controversial. She was not controversial, therefore she couldn't be politicized. She wouldn't come out and defend one thing or the other. She would just stay out of it. Maybe she did have her own opinions when she was talking privately with the PMs. I think they had like a weekly meeting or something.
Yeah.
But we don't know for a fact. And again, that's the whole reason why people loved her so much, because she was not giving any opinion that could be used against her from one political side or the other.
And respecting her constitutional place. Yeah. It's not about what she wanted, it's about what this person is how they're supposed to behave.
She sets a precedent that it's very hard for Charles to like follow. I think like I think William would be a better king.
My theory was always that Lilibet was waiting for Charles to die so she could die.
How much time was it between Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth dying?
Like 3 years max, I think.
Has it been 3 years? Really?
Max.
Damn. I hate the flow of time. In any case, like that's also a love story.
But that's another controversy because he was racist and he said racist things. Oh my God, like what not even a white person. What person didn't say racist things in the 20th century? Like my brown ass grandfather would say racist things,
Oh, you mean to tell me that the consort of the Queen of England, who's like 100 years old, was a racist person? Oh my God. Well, and then again, he wasn't. Wasn't him King Edward, the uncle?
No, Prince Philip. They don't get to be king. That's another sexist thing.
I know. He's Prince Philip, but I'm talking about Elizabeth's uncle.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was the one that abdicated because he wanted to marry the American divorcee.
Yeah, this guy was a
Edward, was it?
Nazi. Like, I didn't know how
Yeah.
Nazi he was.
No, he's not. Again, I'm obsessed. My theory on that, because I'm obsessed with like the royal stuff. I think the reason that he got close to the Nazis was because they were like the only ones willing to treat him as a king, and he wanted to be treated as a king. I'm not excusing it. Like, yes, the fact that he was like supporting that shit, but he was basically like exiled. No other world leader would like respect him, and so he basically took the Nazis to treat him and his American wife as royalty
Nah,
when
you
no one
have
else
to be a
would.
piece of shit to join the Nazis.
You
No,
do. Well,
I
he
draw
didn't.
the line there. Like, there's no justification to be joining.
I'm not justifying it. I'm saying what happened. Like the Nazis treated him as a world leader, and that so he went that way. I don't know if it was like he was an ideological Nazi. Regardless, yes, he supported them, and that's unexcusable.
And I think, and I think not. Like, I know the family, the origins of the family, it's also German. So I think there was also like a link there.
Yeah, they changed their names to
Yeah.
not sound German.
To Windsor.
Mhm.
But before that, it was like the house of a very German name. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna have a new house
What do you mean?
because the houses they change on depending on like the male heir or something like that. Like, it's technically no longer gonna be the House of Windsor. It's my understanding.
Also, am I just remembering this wrong from The Crown? Because Elizabeth's kids ended up having Prince Philip's last name.
Yes,
Or am
I think that's what I think that's what I'm referring to. Yes, the new house is gonna be the house of whatever Philip's last name was.
Oh
So
wow,
that's gonna be fun.
Mountbatten. That's
House
what it
Mountbatten. Yeah, yeah. Or they're gonna change it because it's too German. I don't know. In any case, I think they're gonna have a new house. So times are changing.
Either way, Maduro's still dictator.
Yeah.
The Castros are still ruling.
We have to say it.
Ortega's still in Nicaragua. Putin's still in Russia. So if you want to look at real dictatorships, they're out there.
Putin's ass is being absolutely kicked in Ukraine right now, and I'm so happy for the Ukrainian army. They're having some amazing gains in the east and in the north. I thought when Russia invaded that it was just a matter of weeks before Kyiv fall. Now I'm thinking that Ukraine has the power and the determination to not only push Russia back, but take back their territories in Crimea and in the Donbass region.
And by the way, big part because their biggest ally in Europe, it's the UK. Like even when the US, are sending them things, like we use the UK as base to help them out. So there you go.
So God bless the king, I guess.
No, I'm not ready. I'm rebelling. No. Literally, I cannot accept Charles or Camilla. Like, I can't.
I have to. I live in Canada.
Also, the fact that I'm a Venezuelan American this does not affect my life in any way. I have nothing to do with it, and here I am, like, no, I cannot accept Charles.
Hey,
I'm rebelling.
don't feel bad. People would like cry over football teams. You can cry over the crown.
Exactly. There you go.
So don't feel bad about it. Thank you so much for watching this episode, guys. This was not originally the topic that we wanted to discuss, but the queen fucking died, and that's important. So
it's a big deal.
Figured that we discussed it a little bit. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Make sure to share it with your friends and family who speak English or not. Maybe they're trying to learn. This is a good way to teach them how to speak English and, maybe learn something about the crown. And yeah, see you guys in a few weeks. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.